Story time with Mr. Julio. Tonight, Mr. DC from Mr. Man Collection by Roger Hargreaves. The number 24. Let's see what story has Mr. DC to talk. Mr. DC was, to be quite honest, not very clever. If you were to ask Mr. DC what was the opposite of black, he'd say, the opposite of black is, pink. He lived in a house on a hill which he'd built himself. A not very clever house, you can see. One of Mr. DC's problems was that he lived in a country where everybody else was terribly clever. Cleverland. Even the bears were clever in Cleverland. Every night, and everybody in Cleveland was clever. You'll never see a worm reading a book anywhere else but Cleverland. Poor Mr. DC, everything around him was so clever, it made his head spin. One morning, Mr. DC was out for a walk when he met a pig. What's big and grey and has big ears and a trunk, said the clever pig to Mr. DC. A mouse? Said Mr. DC. The pig laughed sarcastically at Mr. DC and went off, shaking his head. Poor Mr. DC. Then Mr. DC met an elephant. A clever elephant, I'm not very turned. What's small and furry and licks cheese? The elephant asked cleverly. A pig? Replied Mr. DC. The clever elephant laughed down his trunk. A pig? He trumpeted. A pig? You silly man! And off he went. Poor Mr. DC, you can see his face. Mr. DC decided he didn't want to talk to anybody else that day, so he went for a walk in the bush, where he knew that he wouldn't meet anybody. He felt very miserable about not being clever, and as he walked along, a tear trickled down his cheek. Poor Mr. DC. Then, in the middle of the bush, he came across a well. Little did Mr. DC know that it was a wishing well. The day was warm, and so he decided to take a drink of water from the well. Mr. DC drank deeply, but he was still unhappy. Oh, I wish I could be clever, he sighed. Little did Mr. DC know that whoever drinks deeply from the water at the wishing well will see his wish come true. And Mr. DC he wished that he could be clever, and his wish had come true. He was clever, but he didn't know it. Not yet. Oh, interesting. Let's see. On the way home, Mr. DC came across the elephant and the pig he had met earlier. They were telling each other about how they had made Mr. DC look silly by asking him a question he couldn't answer. They were giggling and sneering about it when they saw Mr. DC approaching from the bush. Here he comes again, giggling the clever pig. Let's ask him another question, shingered the clever elephant. Mr. DC came up to them. Tell us, said the clever pig, trying to keep a straight face. What's white and woolly and goes bare? Why? A sheep, of course, replied Mr. DC. The pig and the elephant were amazed. To tell the truth, she too was Mr. DC. He suddenly felt very, very clever. It was not a pleasant feeling. Tell us, said the clever elephant. What has 4 legs, a tail, and goes, woof? How easy, replied Mr. Dizzy. A dog, of course. The clever pig and the clever elephant couldn't understand how Mr. Dizzy had become so clever in one morning. Mr. Dizzy couldn't understand how he had become so clever in one morning, but he knew he'd become so clever in one morning, don't we? Now, let me ask you a question, said Mr. Dizzy to the pig. You? Grunted the pig readily. You ask me a question? Don't be ridiculous. There's no question you could ask me that I couldn't answer. Really? Smiled Mr. Dizzy. Well, then, can you tell me what's fast and pink and goes, a tissue? What's fast and pink and goes, a tissue? Replied the pig, looking worried. There's nothing that's fat and pink and goes, a tissue. Nothing, said Mr. Dizzy, and he tickled his pig's nose. A tissue, sniffed the pig. The answer is you, said Mr. Dizzy. You are fat and pink, and you are going a tissue. The clever pig looked down right, if not down left. Miserable. Mr. Dizzy turned to the elephant, who, incidentally, had stopped singing. Now, said Mr. Dizzy, let me ask you a question. What's large and grey and goes doppy-doppy? What's large and grey and goes doppy-doppy? Repeat the elephant, looking worried. There's nothing that's large and grey and goes doppy-doppy. What a stupid question. Oh, yes, there is, grinned Mr. Dizzy. There's certainly something that's large and grey and goes doppy-doppy, and he tried a knot in the clever elephant's trunk. Dop, cried the elephant, who wanted to say stop it, but couldn't talk properly with a knot in his trunk. Mr. Dizzy grinned and went home. I suppose that's funny, said the elephant. And remember, you can be so clever, but never laugh each others. Bye-bye.